Hello and welcome to the Future of York University, a conversation with President Rhonda Lenton. My name is Francesca Accinelli. I'm the chair of the York University Alumni Board. I'm a member of the Board of Governors, and it's my privilege to be with you today. Si vous préférez écouter cet événement en français, veuillez cliquer sur le casque l'icône dans le coin inférieur de droite de la vidéo, puis sélectionnez Français. Closed captioning is also available in English and French. Those links are available in the chat for your reference. Although we are all not in the same location, we must recognize the many Indigenous nations that have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located and that precede the establishment of York University. York acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Takaranto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peacefully share and care for the Great Lakes region. Today's program is about an hour. It'll include a keynote address from President and Vice Chancellor Rhonda Lenton, followed by a panel discussion with three leaders from our alumni, student, and academic communities. We'll also have a very special performance towards the end. You had an opportunity to submit your questions in advance, and you may continue to do so in the chat throughout the program. To submit these questions, please use, as I said, the chat function. Please note that all your questions and comments are visible by our staff behind the scenes, and we'll ensure that your comments remain relevant and we hope respectful. Before we begin, I get to do an audience poll. It's a very game show, and the York community know I like this. So here's the audience poll. You should be able to see it in the chat box shortly. The first question is, which York University faculty do you most associate yourself with? Let's see, what are we getting in terms? I know for me, I'm a fine arts grad that's now been renamed. The second question is, when did you graduate? That's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's nice to see I see some familiar names and faces there. So it's great to see you all. Now I would like to introduce our president. Rhonda Lenton joined York University in 2002 as the Dean of Atkinson Faculty of Liberal and Professional Studies, where she oversaw substantial enrollment and program diversification, as well as expanded experiential education and community-based learning. She went on to serve as York's inaugural Vice Provost Academic in 2009 to 2012, and then as the university's Vice President Academic and Provost from 2012 until April 2017. Dr. Lenton became York University's 8th President and Vice Chancellor on July 1st, 2017. Welcome, Dr. Lenton.
Thank you so much, Francesca, and good afternoon to everyone in the audience. Bienvenue à tous, bonjour. It's really wonderful to have an opportunity to chat with our alumni, and I appreciate you so much joining us today. So thank you for being here, but also thank you for your continued support of the university. I'd also, like to take this opportunity to thank our panelists, Sarah, Joseph, and Hanaa, and our performer, Luke, for joining us today. And Francesca, also thanks so much to you for moderating. For those of you who aren't aware, Francesca just mentioned her own faculty background, but she's been a member of the York University Alumni Board since 2011 and chair of the board since 2017. Just one second. My apologies, but I knew I was going to have to get that in. I couldn't keep on talking, so my apologies. She spent the last 20 years working with producers in film, television, digital media, the last 14 of which were in progressively senior roles at Telefilm Canada. She currently serves as Telefilm's Vice President, Promotion, Communication, and international relations. So I'm really looking forward to our discussion, Francesca, and so I'm going to turn it back over to you to get us started.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So the first thing that I'd like to ask you, Rhonda, is the elephant that's no longer just in the room, but we're sitting in these unprecedented times with challenges created by the pandemic. What are York's plans for the next academic year? How's the university going to continue to adapt and to evolve in these circumstances and show leadership in this post-pandemic world?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And just before I launch in with some comments about it, I do want to just say how grateful I am for the entire way in which the York University community, students, staff, faculty, alumni, friends have really come together to support each other, but also, of course, our students and our local and global communities. It's obviously, now the common expression to say how unprecedented these times are. But indeed, I don't think anyone could even have imagined what it would mean for the university sector. And our instructors, our colleagues, our students, everyone has shown tremendous perseverance, resilience, compassion, really in figuring out how we were going to adapt. And York did adapt practically over a weekend. A year ago, we adapted from, in person to online or remote. And our alumni have often led by example. They've donated their time, they've donated resources to support our students and York and the broader community in just a myriad of ways. But as proud as I am of everything that we've accomplished over the past year in this virtual time, I have to say I'm very much looking forward to being able to gradually reopen the campus and our campuses. And that is certainly the plan, to slowly start to reopen, especially as we start heading into later summer and preparing for the fall. For a lot of reasons, right now, it would seem like as we're in the middle of the third wave, well, what's even possible? Are we even going to be able to get back in person? But there's very good reason to be optimistic. A lot of the data that's coming out on the modeling right now is suggesting by the end of summer that we'll have reached that sort of 70% with one shot and 20% with the second shot of vaccine. So we're still trying to be a bit conservative in our planning because we know that there will be some students who won't be able to come yet, perhaps into Canada or onto campus. So we wanted to be able, if we had to maintain the 6 feet distancing in our classes, the expectation that students may still have to be wearing, and our faculty as well and our staff, some PPE and masks and so forth. So we basically plotted out our campuses, determined that we would be able to manage that if we had to at about a 30% fill rate for our campuses. And then we've asked all of our colleagues, right, thinking about pedagogy first, thinking about the student learning experience, the fact that we've got a grade 12 class coming in, many of whom maybe had to finish off their grade 12 virtually. We have our first year students who already have had a year of online, and we've got graduating students. Think about experiential education when you really want hands-on learning, placements, and all of that kind of group work. If you think that through, what would you prioritize by way of courses? And then on very large classes, which tend to be lecture format, could we continue with that online? But even there, perhaps introduce in-person tutorials. So we've done all of that careful planning. We're now locating it all across our 2 campuses to figure it out. And then, of course, in the meantime, planning a very robust co-curricular and extracurricular activities as well so that students can really access our campuses again. And, as universities' priorities on a broader scale, I do want to say that we continue to work very closely with the government, with Toronto Public Health, on how we can continue to open up our teaching and learning, our research activities, but also continue to work with the surrounding community in meeting their needs.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a lot. I was taking notes as as you were talking, because I think what you're expressing, many of our alumni probably in their own day-to-day work are having so many of the similar considerations that you've just laid out there. That leads me into the next question I have for you. The workforce has been changing and evolving, but the pandemic has introduced major disruption. Do you think the pandemic has accelerated or created a need for a specific kind of academic programming? Has it reoriented the way that York is approaching skills development or even its training?
I believe that there are some very unique specific impacts of the pandemic, but to a very large extent, the pandemic has accelerated trends that we were already seeing in higher education. Even prior to the pandemic, for example, we know that the Royal Bank and others, they were putting out estimates that about 50% of all existing jobs are going to be directly impacted in some ways by automation. And that on average, for example, students could expect to perhaps have 7 different jobs or more in their lifetime. And with the effects of automation and AI on the workforce, it's very likely that 10 years from now, we're already expecting that there's going to be a host of new jobs that we're not yet able to imagine, and many jobs that will be disappearing completely. And so we need to ensure that we're preparing our students with the skills that they need to adapt to those new roles, a very kind of agile graduate, flexible learner, but also students who understand that the global knowledge economy is becoming a learning economy. It's not you can just go and get your degree and then you go out and you get one job and you're done. There's going to be this lifelong evolution of the skills that you need in order to be able to move along with the changes that are happening in the workforce. And this means not just focusing on preparing students with job-specific skills. We obviously want them to have a basic skill set and content and knowledge, but we have to prepare them with those very broad transferable expertise that includes, in the liberal arts, what we've been talking about for a very long time: critical thinking, problem solving, language skills, digital skills. And it's going to be this set of skills that are really going to allow students to adjust as they need to throughout their lives when they start pursuing their careers. And even beyond creating the talent pipeline, of young workers, people who you think coming, from high school into university. Universities, again, like it was back in the 1990s, we are playing a tremendously critical role in upgrading and reskilling working professionals, adult workers, immigrant workers, and really facilitating the ability for people to take the skills that they might be using in one job area, and then how do they take those skills or perhaps add on some skills to be able to move into a newly emerging job of demand. And I would say that what we're seeing is that enrollment in professional programming has been increasing. What we see is in terms of trying to complement students' ability to acquire those skills. Some students, it'll mean degrees, but for others, they'll want a micro-credential. They'll want to be able to come in quickly, get the skill set that they need. So while we're also thinking about our programming and the skill sets that our students need in their degree programming, we also continue to grow and expand the School of Continuing Studies and other professional development programs that we have at the university, at Osgoode, Schulich Education, and so forth. And just to give an example, the School of Continuing Studies alone, that school has grown by over 1,000% in the last 5 years. Some of you who do drive through or wander onto the Kiel campus may have seen a brand new building that's going up with a little bit of a twist in it. We started that construction a year ago. And that is going to be a brand new standalone continuing studies building. And we need that in order to be able to accommodate that kind of flexible learning in combination with online, I will say, to respond to this rapid growth. And let me just add 2 other quick points that, in addition to thinking about the degree programs, credentials, diversity of how we deliver those programs, we continue to really advance experiential education for all of our students, and that is not going to change. Increasingly, how we even think about what we do on campuses, that we spend time on sort of experiential education, hands-on learning. You're going to see more and more of that, so that students are really able to think about the application of what they're learning for different kinds of career interests. And our goal is to ensure that every York student, irrespective of program, has access to those experiential learning opportunities. And in fact, we've made significant progress towards that. We're still collecting the data for the last academic year, but we know that in 18-19, more than 9,000 York students had participated in some form of a work placement. 1 in 5 students had participated in an experiential learning opportunity outside of the classroom.
That's, as someone who loves data, that's resonating with me, President Lenton, because I think I really compliment how York is setting measurements and continuing to measure the growth, especially around experiential learning. And I think it's a nice segue into talking about the Markham campus. With construction on the Markham campus underway, can you tell us more about the vision of the campus, the types of programming that it has to offer?
Yeah, people should get in their cars every once in a while, or go out for a walk just around these areas where we're building, because you can start to see that Markham campus going up now, and it's really quite exciting. We're preparing to hang some nice banners to give a better profile to the building. But this has really been an incredibly important project, and as many of our audience members are aware, we really had a long vision to start establishing campuses and a greater presence in York Region, one of the fastest growing regions, and not only in Ontario, but in Canada. And we wanted that, to be able to contribute not only to the needs, the talent needs of York Region and Ontario more broadly, but we also wanted to support and contribute directly to the innovation ecosystem in York. Many of our students have startup ideas even before they leave, and they want to work on those. We know the importance of SMEs for the economy. And so for us, we very much thought about how can we work with the employers, the private industry, the not-for-profit, the health sector in York Region, and really try to understand what those needs are and what can we do together to ensure that those future skills are being met, but also that we're supporting entrepreneurs that are in York Region. So that vision was really rooted in our confidence that the university could leverage our academic strengths and our collaborative partnerships that we already have in order to be able to really offer high quality programs that were aligned with the local but also the global markets. And a key consideration, therefore, for the campus was also ensuring that our students would really be able to meet those needs. And we see the kinds of tremendous industry leadership in York Region that we believe that we can contribute to in the areas of business, digital media, engineering and technology, entrepreneurship, new media and communications. So these are some of the preliminary programs that we're having at the campus. The goal for the campus is to be comprehensive. We have about 4 to 5 faculties where all of those programs will be originating from. But over time, we expect to be adding additional programs from other faculties. And although the doors are opening, it used to seem so far away now. In 2023, now it's almost like around the corner. But that campus will be starting off with about 4,200 students in the first phase. But there's the potential for that campus, if you track especially the immigration, but the growth in York Region to grow to 10, 15,000. And at the same time, we're also expanding our Y-Space Markham that is currently already open, that is supporting entrepreneurs. So we'll be continuing that innovation entrepreneurship hub that will work alongside of the new campus.
That's great. And before I get to the next question, I would encourage all of our alumni out there to pay attention to Y-Space, because the entrepreneurial spirit, the innovation that's coming from that space is really remarkable. So do a little research, and as Rhonda says, drive by the campus and give it a little bit more attention. I'd like to shift to some of, I think, the campus and you and your leadership team have done quite a lot of work, as many others have done this year. But I would like if you can address, in February, you released a new framework and a draft action plan that will guide the university's approach to combating anti-Black racism, both on and off our campuses. Can you get into the details? What's your plan for addressing systemic and anti-Black racism?
Yeah, I mean, this past year, we're obviously, at a watershed moment now that should have happened a lot earlier, but it is here now. I do want to say that when I first became president, actually back in 2017, I created a new division, even back then, the division of equity, people, and culture. And I hired the first inaugural vice president of equity, people, and culture, because it's always been very clear to me that York, in its mission statement, in its vision, has always had that access agenda. You don't leave talent behind. I think I've mentioned, to people before about myself that neither of my parents went to university. And so really thinking about access, thinking about the diversity of the campus, inclusion, which is much more than just diversity. It's, how everyone actually feels they belong on our campus. They're part of shaping the campus. They're part of the decision making of the campus. And so that, and Sheila, our Vice President, Sheila Cote-Meek, has really been incredibly, aggressive in moving the university forward on where are we with our equity strategy and how do we develop a comprehensive equity strategy for the university. We had an Indigenous framework for some period of time to help the university address truth and reconciliation. But obviously then, in this past year, it's really been highlighted very clearly that it's not enough for Canada to look at visible minority. That category, it's a very large category, and it can often disguise or overlook within that category, different levels of underrepresentation, especially when you look across the faculty in different fields, for example, very uneven representation. And it has given us an opportunity this past year to really talk specifically about systemic anti-Black racism and what we were going to do about it. And over this last spring, Sheila and I have been meeting with Black students and Black staff, Black course directors, faculty, as well as some of our alum and other friends at the university to really hear about the frustrations, the experiences. Many of those conversations, I'm going to acknowledge, were very, very challenging and difficult conversations, painful in some cases, painful obviously for our Black students, faculty, staff, and other members, just sort of, sharing and reliving some of the experiences that they've had, but hard for us also to understand the level of what was happening with some of those experiences around a sense of lack of personal and emotional safety, daily experiences, in some cases, of racial harassment, exclusion, discrimination, certainly a felt sense of lack of representation throughout the university, a lack of respect, but also talked about barriers to academic and career advancement. They also talked about the absolute importance in a very positive way about the need to see themselves, not just in select areas where you think you wouldn't necessarily be surprised, around critical race theory, for example, but across the whole university, across all faculties, to see themselves in the faculty, the instructors, the staff, the administration, but also the curriculum, taking a look at the curriculum. We talked about racial profiling and surveillance on our campuses. What does that mean for the security model that we have on campus? And also the importance of support. Where is support coming when you do have a complaint or a concern? And community members shared a tremendous range of suggestions about what we needed to do to actually be thinking about an anti-Black racism framework and then the action plan that would go with that. And so the framework, a really solid framework, has now been developed and it's posted. We've got a working action plan. I say working because it's going to continue to evolve as we go along for Black inclusion. And that reflects very much the feedback and the recommendations that we heard I'll just say that the framework's organized around 9 core objectives around improving representation, around safety, knowledge creation, mental health supports, community engagement, data collection, education, decision making, and accountability. And it's the foundation now for a more detailed roadmap that is going to be part of that action plan. And that is going to help us move forward the very specific implementation of that framework, the actions. And although I said it's not fully developed, we're not waiting. So when obvious actions need to be taken now, we've been moving. So undertaking an equity audit of human resources, policies, and procedures through an anti-Black racism lens. We've got a whole very exciting set of dedicated Black faculty hiring program across the university that's happening for the next year to increase that by 12 to 14 new faculty members over the next 2 years. We're creating an anti-Black racism officer role that is going to lead, racism complaints and the resolution around those complaints. Anti-Black racism education, the annual reporting back on racist incidents, and the implementation of the framework. We're adding to and enhancing our scholarship program and our fellowships for Black students at the postdoctorate level, graduate and undergraduate levels on all of our campuses. But we're also ensuring that we have counselors on our staff that have the lived experience of anti-Black racism and who have expertise in supporting individuals who've experienced racial trauma. And as I've said, on an ongoing basis, we are going to be collecting data, disaggregating race-based data so that our students, our faculty, our alumni, our staff have that data. And there's a level of accountability back to our community on how we're doing. So look, there's much more that I could go on about this. I really encourage people to read the documents. They're posted. If you have any comments at all, we would love to hear from our alumni. And I think I just want to close my remarks on this, that, really acknowledging that there have been individual Black staff and faculty and students who have, to some extent carried the responsibility of all of the tremendous good work that has been done at York over the last 60 years. It is time for the administration to support those efforts and to put in place the structures that ensure that the systemic issues are actually being addressed. That is not something that is done overnight. Looking at our policies, our procedures, putting in place addressing the representation. This is a long-term effort, a series of efforts that need to be undertaken, and we're committed to undertaking those efforts.
Great. Thank you very much, President Lenton. Now I'd like to bring in some other voices into the conversation. I'm very excited to welcome 3 fantastic guests to speak of their industries and also their York experience. First, we welcome Hanaa Ameer. Hanaa is a 4th-year undergraduate student in the Healthcare Management program. As a President's Ambassador and Student Alumni Ambassador, she has held several leadership positions in student clubs and is passionate about making a difference in her community. She has worked with the university to promote and create experiential education opportunities, and she understands the importance of hands-on experience for undergraduate students. Hanaa plans to pursue a career in law and politics and has created programs to support York University's goals of achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Next, we have alumnus Joseph Smith. Joseph received his doctorate in interdisciplinary and encompasses key notions amongst the disciplines of philosophy, psychology, religious studies, and literature, with a focus on the philosophies of self-consciousness within the West and the intellectual background of Black consciousness. He is the co-founder of the not-for-profit organization Generation Chosen, which focuses on mental health and emotional intelligence within underrepresented communities. He is a project coordinator for the Black Experience Project, which is housed and funded by Environics Institute. Joseph is a facilitator and a consultant working in anti-Black racism and emotional health at Morneau Shepell, and he's the co-creator and co-facilitator of Rooted and Rising Environmental Activism Program. Just 1 week ago today, he was honored with the Decade Leader Award at the Harry Jerome Awards, held by the Black Business and Professional Association, because of his devoted work in the community. And last and not least, because it's my my alma mater, Professor Sarah Bay-Cheng. Sarah is the Dean of the School of Arts, Media, Performance, and Design, and a Professor of Theater and Performance Studies at York. Her research focuses on the intersections among theater, performance, and media, including histories of the avant-garde theater and film, social media, and digital technologies in performance. Her publications include Performance and Media, Taxonomies for the Changing Field and Mapping Intermediality in Performance, and over 50 articles and essays. Dean Bay-Cheng frequently lectures internationally. In 2015, was the Fulbright Visiting Scholar in Media and Cultural Studies at the Utrecht University in Netherlands. Since 2016, she can be heard as the co-host of On Tap, a theater and performance studies podcast. Dean Bay-Cheng has also worked as a director and a dramaturge with particular interest in intermedia collaborations and has a fondness for puppetry, which I do as well, which I just learned now. So I'd like to say welcome to all of you. So we did receive some questions in advance. Wait, let me just, so it does, let me do this. So Dean, I'll have everyone raise your hands just in case people don't know. So Hanaa, if you can just signal that you're, there we go, Dean Bay-Cheng. And well, Joseph, you're the lone gentleman in our group. We welcome you just the same.
I could switch my name to Josephine to do that.
Again, your agility is just going to become very apparent in this conversation. I would like to start, and maybe it's a combination of President Lenton and Dean Bay-Cheng. What do you think will be the most emerging trend in university education? Maybe I can start with the Dean first and follow up with President Lenton.
Thanks so much, Francesca, and hello to everyone out there. As someone in theater, it's always a bit weird to be talking to screens and cameras, but of course that also I think is a big part of what might actually be the future of our educational sector. The lessons, as President Lenton alluded to earlier, have been significant over these past 12 months and more. And we've faced a lot of challenges in terms of how we teach, what we teach, how we learn. But there have been incredible learning opportunities as well. And we're seeing tremendous access facilitated by introducing new technologies and new media into classrooms and into all kinds of learning environments that, frankly, a year ago, I would have never anticipated could have been done so effectively. And I think that this is a trend that's going to continue even after we're back in person and back in live classrooms. I think we're going to continue to see such great access and building and creativity in virtual environments, in augmented reality environments, and in really what I think of as a very connected and very hybrid educational models going forward.
Wonderful. President Lenton, something to add?
I think that Sarah offered such a great answer to that. I think that in addition to the blended learning, that's going to be combined with, when you think about blended, what does that actually mean? So you're going to see, I think, a bit of evolution in how campuses are used. That campuses will increasingly be places where learning happens together in terms of, this is standard fare for arts, media, performance, and design, but across other faculties, that you do spend more of the time together on campuses, on the hands-on experiential education, that kind of the flipped classroom model, and you spend less time sitting and sort of listening to lectures, because so much of that will be easily accessible online. And I think that combination goes hand in hand with increasing flexibility in almost any aspect that you can think of for universities. And that would include how we think about credentials. Right now, the tendency is to believe that you come for a 120 credit degree, or you're coming for a graduate degree. Maybe you're coming for a certificate or diploma. But I believe increasingly that students, working professionals, immigrants, others, newcomers are going to want access to, shorter module type of learning. And we're going to need to be more flexible in allowing those, people to come and get a certain credential that they might need, but then also to build those credentials potentially into a degree if they want to do that. So these are some of the trends that I think we're going to start seeing over time.
Perfect. I also, I need to apologize, Professor Bay-Cheng. I am sorry I mispronounced your name. That's terrible because I follow you on social media, and as someone with a long, terrible name, I really apologize for that. We're starting to get some other questions. I'd like to ask a question to Hanaa right now. How has the experiential education portion of your university over the past year been? And how has the curriculum for health education changed in this real time?
Okay, so I'm in the healthcare management program in my 4th year right now, and I actually had the opportunity to do an in-person practicum, and it was a really great opportunity because my other classes were online, and I did get that sort of blended model because I got to go downtown to a hospital, and there were other students who were in my program, so we collectively worked on a really big research project. We were able to present that to the hospital executives. And later on, I got hired and the other students. And, now we're all working together again for the summer. And honestly, the experience has been really great for me. And I'm also grateful to, the professors in the university who put this together and the community health partners, because I think these experiences are so valuable. And especially when all your other classes, they are online, it really shows the importance of getting out there and getting that hands-on learning experience. And in terms of the health curriculum, my program, they put a really big emphasis on the social determinants of health. So talking about what other factors make up your health status. So for example, like we talked about education, Aboriginal status, income levels. And I think that also really aligns with, when we're looking at population health data, a lot of the COVID cases and a lot of the outbreaks, they're typically areas where a lot of the people who live there, it's a lot of marginalized people, low income. So I think it's really important that the health curriculums address this. And I think going forward, we're definitely going to see more curriculums focused on these social determinants of health.
Perfect. Thank you. Joseph, I'd like to go to you now. As an educator, what have been one of the biggest struggles to the education sector? In particular, like what are the changes you're noticing, positive, negative, with the children and the youth that you've gotten to work with?
Thank you. In my role as a teacher, I definitely see that the extent to which a lot of young people have been impacted, especially those that are from underserved communities that are particularly racialized, has been legion. I've seen the growth in mental health issues, food insecurity issues, issues around housing as a result of the lockdown and people being unable to pay their bills on time and things of that nature. All these things become the impediments that are kind of circling in the back of a young person's mind that really do prevent them from engaging with the content that's being administered to them in a regular instructional day. I'm actually on the verge of being placed into a school as a VP, so I think the problems will only increase in terms of what you have to micromanage and contend with. And that's really why I do a lot of things outside of the school with regards to nonprofit work to support the mental health of youth and young adults from underserved communities, and to do other things like providing them with education and outlets in other areas that can contribute to them performing well in the instructional day. But there's a lot of barriers, right? I mentioned the mental health issues and the tensions there. There's also virtual barriers. And so I've seen schools have to scramble to provide youth and young adults with technology, laptops, Wi-Fi hubs, so they can participate in the actual instruction of the day. And I've also taken it upon myself in my nonprofit to purchase laptops and provide youth with Wi-Fi hubs so they can participate in our programming at Generation Chosen. But then those pieces can also help them contribute and participate in the things that they're doing all day. There's also a lot of Zoom fatigue, right? Coming on camera, not wanting to show their faces because of all sorts of reasons. It could be because of what their home looks like. They could be embarrassed. A lot of these barriers we don't recognize have befallen these young people from underserved communities particularly. And so we're all trying to adjust and accommodate. It's very difficult because when you think about the extent to which after-school programming and all these other social supports used to inspire and enhance and enrich the experience a young person has in a regular day, those are all gone. And so a young person is forced to be at home, sequestered away from their friends and family in many respects for a long period of time and engaging and learning. And that's just difficult for so many reasons, because it's really hard to translate that energy that, you know, a lot of teachers are trying to translate through this remote forum to a young person that is dealing with so many different issues.
Thank you, Joseph. We did receive another question from the audience, and I think I'd like to split it between President Lenton and the Dean. Do you believe that access includes offering academic tenure track positions? Diversity will be impeded by not having full-time career opportunities.
Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead.
I would simply say, and I'll, of course, always want to hear from our president, but I think that every university, and York in particular, is always interested in growing its faculty complement and increasing diversity of all kinds. We thrive on new ideas, both those that come from the outside and those that come from within. They're key to how we keep going and how we reimagine ourselves. A university is a living being, and I think the future of York, like all great universities, is one that is dynamic, that is connected, and that is reaching across all kinds of different boundaries and borders, and even the barriers that Joseph is talking about. And so I think that certainly bringing in new people and finding new ways to connect is going to be critical for the success of our students, the success of our faculty and staff, and ultimately for the communities both that we are and that we serve.
And
Great.
could I just add that over the last several years at York, we've been very focused on increasing the full-time academic complement, and also making sure that we had programs in place for our contract faculty to help provide them with the skills to enhance their competitiveness to compete for those posted programs, the appointment opportunities. And that, I think it was in 1920 or 2021, our contract faculty successfully competed for 20% of those positions. They did incredibly well, which you would expect since they had been, at the university. And so we're very mindful of not only the issue of creating opportunities for contract, increasing full-time academic, but also ensuring that we're attracting a very broad, diverse population of academic colleagues. Because as I said in my earlier remarks, not only will that enhance their learning experience, but students also need to see themselves reflected in when they come to the university. So it is absolutely through those full-time opportunities that we intend to continue to focus for the next few years, long term.
Thank you. I see another question, and it actually speaks to, when we did a prep call around this. What role do you see alumni playing in these endeavors, in particular in the conversations we've talked about today? And what opportunity do alumni have in providing input, or how can an alumni perspective continue to be obtained? So I'll throw it out. Maybe, Joseph, as an alum, maybe you can kind of talk about how you've contributed back to York.
Absolutely. I could definitely start off by saying that we have an incredibly talented and gifted alumni base. So many individuals in diverse fields doing incredible things. And I think the connectivity is all that we really need to ensure that all of those respective endeavors grow and enhance and enrich both York's community and then the community outside of York. I know for myself, I did my master's at York, and then in the process of completing my PhD at York University, looking for the tenure track position that's highly coveted. But in the interim, I've been able to diversify my portfolio and the things that I do. So because of that, I was able to start my nonprofit, right, as I worked as a teacher in high schools. And then in addition to that, working with other nonprofits, one being Operation Black Vote Canada, which is actually spearheaded by another York alumni, and then also working with the FFBC to build a charitable organization that can support B3 organizations across Canada. And we're looking to raise about $300 million. And a lot of great things have happened in corporate philanthropy and also at the federal budget level to support us in that work. I think alumni might not be privy to all the different incredible things going on in everybody else's life. And I think if we can maybe provide content in one space where we can all access it, that would be ideal, because there's so much for our alumni to participate in and help grow and enrich the York community in general.
Perfect. And maybe, Hanaa, I'll have you take it from a different way. As a student, what would you like to see the alumni do? Is there a way that alumni could be helping you right now?
Yeah, so I think that, like I mentioned with the practicum, so we have different community partners. So I think it would be really beneficial if, like, alumni, if you're working at a company or an organization and you think that it would be really beneficial to bring a student there, I think that's a really great opportunity, because I've been able to do a lot of internships, and that's actually how you grow your network. And I think that the more partners that we have, the more opportunities we can get, and the more students we can take on for those roles, because a lot of practicums, there definitely are requirements. And I think that the more partners we have, more students can easily get involved, and that way they can also connect with alumni when they're on the job working. And then also another opportunity I would say as a student is if alumni can maybe offer like shadowing opportunities for students. So I've had the opportunity to do that, and just being in conversations, being in the same room, seeing also how like fast paced the environment is sometimes, like that's really interesting, because when you're just like at home doing like sometimes Zoom calls, I think like after a while it can sometimes be repetitive. But if you're getting that experience that's different, that you've never had before, especially like as an undergrad, when you are really young, it's so valuable.
Perfect. And then if I can, I'll just put my alumni hat on as well. I think, you know, the alumni team here at York are remarkable. The website starts to direct you in places, but we have so many networks that are already established, but we're also looking for other networks. You know, it was from some of our alumni members that the Black Network group started, and we're looking at more and more, whether they're faculty-based, sports-based, discipline-based. This is your time. Maybe I'll do one for all my friends from the Open End Pub, all of us that worked there over 20 some odd years ago. But, you know, think about what that community meant to you, and then reach out to the alumni group, because I think, you know, as Hanaa said, and Joseph, there are so many ways that we can intersect back and I think actually benefit, because we don't know what people have become sometimes and how they can better connect you moving forward. And I think the other thing I see, I have just a few minutes, and I may split this between Sarah and Joseph. The agility, you know, Joseph, yes, you're doing your PhD, but you've sort of talked about how you've adapted and shifted from what you thought to now what the possibilities are. So I'd love you to talk a minute about that. And maybe Sarah, if you could talk about how some of the programs are adjusting to deliver that more.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I was in the early stages of my PhD program in the humanities, I was also teaching as a teacher in K-12 schools, so in a high school, actually a Topical School of the Arts at the time. And I decided to start the nonprofit called Generation Chosen, which really seeks to alleviate mental health issues and encourage and enhance the emotional intelligence of young people. And in that process, first of all, it's a scary process starting a business or a nonprofit in general. No clue of where to begin and how to get into it, but it became become very successful. And what ended up happening was I was intentional about thinking, let me hire York University students to support me, because I know when I was doing my undergrad, not really knowing what other unique, innovative opportunities existed out there, I wanted to have somebody mentor me and show me the ropes. So hiring York University students, and from my nonprofit being developed, I got involved in the Black Experience Project, which was housed by Environics Research Institute. And in that research project, when we had the public release of it, someone saw me speaking about the research and got me to be a part of OBVC, Operation Black Vote Canada, which allows me to liaise with federal government, provincial government, municipal government across Canada to increase the representation of people of color. That opportunity led to me being a part of the FFBC, which is now building the charitable organization to support B3 organizations across Canada. And so one thing led to the other, and I ended up maintaining and keeping all these different hats, while at the same time consistently trying to rope other York students into these various opportunities. So unintentionally in one sense and intentionally in another sense, that whole community piece that you were speaking about, where alumni are reaching back and supporting others, was part of my story and my narrative. And it's only done wonders for building up the profile and allowing me to gain access to other spaces.
Great. Maybe Sarah, and then I think President Lenton, I would love to, we're almost done this section, so I'd like to start with Sarah and then President Lenton, maybe to wrap up around that agility and kind of, we're talking about the preparing for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, Joseph says it so well, and it certainly echoes in something I've learned from all of the York alumni that I've spoken to, which is that York alums do not stay in their lane. They gather a number of different skills and they cross all kinds of boundaries. And so in learning from them and listening to their example, some of whom I know are listening right now, I think that this can provide incredible models for our students. And so what we're trying to do in AMPD, and I think other places at York as well, is really rethink our educational systems so that they become more nimble and easily navigable by students. And also in terms of what our alums can give back is some reassurance, because sometimes our students, like they think they want to get in a tunnel that's going to take them in a seamless way from point A to point B, and then they can sort of be done. And the reality is that wasn't true 20, 30 years ago. It's certainly not going to be true tomorrow and in 20, 30 years from now. Like, our students are going to need the ability to navigate a rapidly changing workforce and fields that are really changing, but not only adapting to those changes, but driving those changes, taking the lead in not just understanding and working better in a future, but really creating a better future that works for everybody else as well. And that's where our alums have been such great examples and can really be such leaders. And so I'm really incredibly grateful to everyone who has taken the opportunity to talk with our students, to share their stories with the York University community. And I really welcome that continued partnership as we help our students today and tomorrow understand all the different opportunities that are available to them and how they can succeed for themselves and others tomorrow.
I look at President Lenton, but our dean did quite a lovely summation of of all that.
I'm so sorry.
No, actually, that was perfect, because if I could just add anything, I just want to really emphasize that York's vision is about ensuring that a broad demographic of students has access to a high quality, research intensive university committed to driving positive change. And the pandemic has, if it's done anything, it has highlighted the important role of universities and our our graduates in taking on those big complex issues. And we've done so much this past little while, a new faculty of environmental and urban change, and we're establishing a new training center around emergency and disaster management. We have a commitment to become carbon neutral on or before 2049. We have a social procurement policy. I've already spoken about our anti-Black racism framework and our equity strategy. There's so much that this university does, and our graduates, that's their education experience. And when we think about our alum taking on, those challenges, but also thinking about ways they can connect with us now through that mentorship, through offering placements. We're open to hearing from you, because this is a university that does think about, writing the future. So let me just absolutely love Sarah's comments, and I'll close with that.
Wonderful. So now we hinted at a special performer earlier. So it is now my great pleasure to introduce Luke Reece, who graduated from the Faculty of Arts, Performance, Media and Design in 2015. He's the Associate Artistic Director at Soul Pepper, Canada's leading artist-driven theatre company, and was recognized recently as York's top 30 Changemakers Under 30 for sharing his authentic and engaging stories with Canadian audiences. Luke is one of Toronto's most decorated slam poets, representing the city on the national and international stage. He continues to give back to the Toronto spoken word scene as the board member for the Toronto Poetry Project. Luke, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the event. Thank you so much to the committee for having me here and to perform this piece for you today. My York University degree is not currently hanging on my wall. That's mostly because I don't have strong enough nails to support it. Knowledge is heavy. It tips the scales between our past, present, and future as we try to balance the focus of binoculars on the bridge of our nose, or the root of the problem, or the point of action, the breaking point, so we can look forward into the future. That's why we're here today, to connect with a rich alumni base to unite us around York's plan to build a better future. Because we are all a part of this community, and knowledge is heavy. I studied at York from 2011 to 2015 during the My Time campaign. Anyone remember that? This is my time. Whenever I hear that phrase, all I can think about is some gray face with white font on a red background pasted across a gray campus of students being told how to measure success. I resented those posters. They felt so limiting and singular to me. I was almost on one of them, actually. I was interviewed by the campaign, viewed for my ability to be an international success, but apparently it wasn't my time, the opportunity denied, and it did a number on my mental health, but not one that I could call for help. I felt the weight of that rejection. And 7 years later, with this poetic reflection, I have since learned that it is always my time. And guess what? It's yours too, York U. It's our time to step up. There's a line in the academic plan that really shines for me. It reads, "The world needs more of York University." It speaks volumes to me. That at a time when pleas for help are deafening and demands for justice, systemic change, and climate action tirelessly resonate through wireless connections and knowledge is drenched in conflict, my alma mater releases a plan that clearly acknowledges the need to do better. Looking beyond the campus to the world, because the future is not bound to one's pride or one pride, but the entire ecosystem that thrives together, feast or famine. I'm a York U lion and a human on this planet, a change maker. So now I've got this second certificate to hang, and it's a bit of a humble brag, but I'm proud to be one of York's top 30 change makers under 30, because I believe we all have the potential to be that change maker on any scale. And I continue to be empowered to make that change, and I continue to empower others to make that change. We are makers of change. They say, a penny for your thoughts, but they discontinued the penny here, so doesn't that make our ideas more valuable? That makes sense, right? So this change has gotten our priorities in check, and we can bank on our actions on track towards 21st century learning, as we're advancing global engagement from access to success, working in partnership and living well together, and adapting in pursuit of knowledge for the future. We're expanding on what leadership can mean. We're dialing in our focus so that our global community is distinguished, and we're nailing down these commitments so that knowledge can be supported. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll just sort of sit here thinking about it, and I'm wondering how I can hire you to do events for myself. That was, see, this is how it works. This is how alumni, we just live on the spot. That's how it works. I see you. I hear you. I'm so excited. So now I get to do, I feel like this is maybe our mutual Oprah moment. Oh, I've lost him. So it's my personal Oprah moment. I'm very thrilled to say that everyone involved and who has been part of this discussion today will receive a York University mug as a way of thanking you for joining us. It'll be sent to the mailing address that was provided when you registered. And as President Lenton, the others said, we absolutely welcome and need your involvement in York's future. There are many, many ways for you to get involved, ranging from helping current students, as you heard Hanaa say, to engaging with others, other alumni that you can connect with, maybe through us. To learn more, click on the Get Involved in the upper right corner of your screen. You can also connect at the Alumni and Friends website and our social media channels using the hashtag YorkUAlumni, or email our team at alumni@yorku.ca. Thank you very much. I have been your host, Francesca. It's been a blast.